Okay, so we're just trying to keep ourselves a little silence during like only 1 to 3 minutes for reconnect ourselves. Okay, just relax your body and mind and keep your focus in breathing. Continuously, again we take refuge to Buddha Dharma Sangha and generate the mind of bodhicitta. Sanye jeno tsoye chonamo la janju pardo dane gyaso je dagi chujin yebe tsonamo ye enrola penjire sanye enrobara sho. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha by the virtuous merit created by listening to the Dharma. May I attain the state of a Buddha in order to benefit all beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha by the virtuous merit created by listening to the Dharma. May I attain the state of a Buddha in order to benefit all beings. Okay, continuously we offering mandala. This ground I anointed with the perfumes taken with the flowers, Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine as a Buddha land and offer to you. May all beings enjoy in this pure land. Idam Guru Rana Mandala Niyatayane. Okay, so before we continue, we will think in this verse which Shantideva said, all of these practices were taught by the Mighty One for the sake of wisdom. Therefore, those who wish to pacify suffering should generate this wisdom. So, whosoever want to achieve the state of enlightenment, we should practice 6 paramitas, generosity, discipline, patience, efforts, concentrations, and wisdoms. So what this means here is the Buddha taught this, 6 paramitas. But in these 6 paramitas, the paramita of the wisdom, those 5 previous paramita, it's like a body, and then the paramita of wisdom is like eyes. So whosoever wish to pacify our state of suffering, and whosoever want to liberate from suffering, we should develop wisdom, because only the wisdom can, light of wisdom can eradicate the origin of sufferings, as usual happens, like only light can dispel the darkness. Right? Darkness cannot dispel the darkness, only the light. So same as the ignorance is the only, the wisdom can dispel the ignorance. So that's why the wisdom, the teaching of wisdom, concentrate the main core teaching of the Buddha, because the main intention to practice, it's like how to achieve this state of liberation. So this is why, so today, like we following the teaching, such a profound teaching like a dependent origination. The dependent origination, it's the there are three types of dependent originations, like a gross, subtle, and a very subtle. The gross is like a dependent origination of cause and effect. The subtle is a dependent origination of the parts. Then the very subtle is a dependent origination of just naming. Everything exists because of the designation, because of the conceptualizations. Okay, then so now, so the when we practice and when we practice like a dependent origination, when we recite those verses, we should recite with a fully with full devotion, devoted, and believe everything the Buddha said is the it's a reality and true. So through this devotion, we should praise to Buddha. As much as we praise the Buddha, we realize that we receive the inspiration, the blessing. So through this inspiration, we can achieve the state of right vision of emptiness. Okay, so now verse 6 and verse 7. First we read and then we will describe. By grasping at the childish, strengthen bondage to extreme views. For the wise, this very fact is the doorway to cut free from the net of elaborations. Since this teaching is not seen elsewhere, you alone are the teacher. Like calling fox a lion for a tritika, it would be a word of flattery. So people like us, we are so our way of thinking, our vision is very undeveloped. So that's why we are like a childish. Still, we are like a child. Our very infants think it's a very element. Even we think we know everything, but in reality, we don't know much. We are still developing our. Why? Because still we think that still we have a kind of thought, and we see the thing exists itself, and then we have extreme vision. We think that the thing exists eternally, or nihilisms, like eternally or always, or non-exist. Because of our habit from long time, we are get used to keep this kind of thought. So that's why even the things are not self-exist, but we see them as a self-exist, self-inherent exist. So that's why So so that's why it's our mind becomes so complex and so controversial. Like it's not a clear, very but even we are we learn a lot of things. We speak different languages. We whatever, like we have a different kind of knowledges. But our knowledge compared with the those who are in the state of the vision, who are in the path of the vision, and above the part of the vision, like meditation, and so the no more learning. We are like a child. We are like a child because we think we have some kind of wrong perceptions. That wrong perception make us complex, make us having a lot of complex and conflict. So because we have a lot of intellectual imputation, conceptual mind. So many of people, even they try to make their idea of self exist strongly because of their own beliefs. That's their So because of these old beliefs, they developed through their intellectual, conceptual thoughts, intellectually. Even it's actually it does not exist. So then they make their wrong perception of seeing the thing inherent exist. It's much more stronger. So as much as they make their self-centered mind stronger, and as less as they feel tolerance, they become extreme, and as less as a less tolerant person, usually suffer more. So the teaching of the emptiness, the teaching of the Buddha, make us make us resilience and make us more tolerance, and our mind become more progressive and more wider and open. It's like a holistic view. It becomes make us. So that's why they are like so those practitioners who has a realization of the seeing the vision of dependent origination, or vision of emptiness, they are free of those all intellectual conceptual thoughts, because they see the direct perceptions, right? So that's why they are free of beliefs. They don't need to believe anything. They are free of belief because they see what it is. And so that's why so that wrong perception make also to cut free bondage. It make like a bondage. It makes some kind of tighter our bondage is like a how let's say that wrong vision close our mind. Like make us it's like a tightness, or it put in the net. It's like a cage. Yeah, we caged. Because we caged of our own self-grasping. We are in the cage of our self-grasping. So that's why so so even like those lower school Buddhist schools, they think that the things exist itself, things exist truly because it exists. It exists because of the cause. Everything exists in the because of cause. The cause and condition exists itself, exists truly. So that's why they think they defined the things exist objectively. Things exist how to say things self-exist or truly exist. Why? Because they are produced by the causes. So that's why they believe in self-existent phenomena. So that's why they don't bother to search the selflessness of phenomena. So from a Madhyamika point of view, so things exist dependent, things originate dependent of the cause and effect. So that's why it's a dependent origination. If it's a dependent origination, it's not an independent exist. If it's not an independent exist, so that's why it's not a self-exist. Everything is dependent, it's the lack of independent. So nothing exists independently. It's how it exists interdependent or dependent originations. They have a dependent. So everything it exists as a dependent, or everything originated by the dependent phenomena. So it's empty. It's an empty phenomenon, empty of inherent and empty of truly exist. This is Madhyamika thought. So that's why everything exists. It's depend on their parts. It exists because of how do we translate It's like a dependent phenomena. It's dependent on other phenomena. So that's why if that phenomenon it's dependent, it exists dependent with the other phenomena, dependent on other phenomena. So that phenomenon it's not a self-exist. It's not a independent exist. So that's why it's empty. Why? Because it is interdependent. It's interdependent, so that's why it it makes affirmation of emptiness. So that's why the Buddha is the great teacher. He's the only teacher who dared to taught us the emptiness. Rest of those, Tritika means like those extremists. Apparently, they have they knowing or they recognize as a teacher, but they are not able to teach us such a profound teaching like emptiness, which help us to achieve the total liberation from all our deluded mind, and the teaching which help us to clear our mind totally, and our mind, the teaching which help us to discover our pure and pristine mind. So that's why those teachers are like not a total qualified teacher. So that's why they just they have a it's like if you call a fox, in reality it's a fox, but if you call a lion, but a fox is not going to have all the quality or strength that lion has. It's just so this is like a little bit sarcastic way of neglecting the. It's ironic way of refuse the false teachers. I mean the false because they don't teach the ultimate teachings. Why they don't teach ultimate teaching? Because if we follow their teaching, we don't get total liberation. So that's why whosoever wants to see the reality and want to achieve the liberation, so the teaching of the Buddha, it's a necessarily. So that's why we are so thankful and grateful that we are following the only teacher who dared to teach us how to achieve the liberation, total, how to accomplish our ultimate goal. So continuously he said, wondrous teacher, wondrous refuge, wondrous speaker, wondrous savior, I pay homage to the teacher, that teacher who taught well dependent origination. So, only the Buddha, it's a great protector. Only the Buddha is the great, teacher, protector, and great speaker. He's like a sublime, it's like sublime protector. It's a wondrous savior who, actually, it's a great savior. He saved us from all those threatening which we receive from samsara, the circling existence. So through his teaching, we liberate from that circling and that conjunction mind and block mind or constipated mind. He help us to release all those wrong perceptions. So that's why he's a great speaker. He speaks only truth. He's a great teacher. He teaches great qualified teachings, because he teaches the origin or dependent originations. So that's why we pay homage, because we recover our definite health. We recover, and otherwise, everything, it's just everything, it doesn't matter whether we feel good or bad, whether we feel pleasure, but these pleasure are insatiable. Sooner or later we need to back to the state of grief, suffering, etc. So continuously, the verse 9 and 10, that to help heal sentient beings, O benefactor, you have taught the peerless reason to ascertain emptiness, the heart of the teaching. This way of dependent dependent origination, those who perceive it as contradictory or as unestablished, how can they comprehend your system? So whatever Buddha teach us, he teach us to the genuine compassion. He wanted to. What's the the compassion is desire to relieve the suffering, relieve suffering. So he always want to relieve, right? He always wish to liberate from the suffering. So that's why all his teaching based on compassion, so only trying to the only intention is intention to helping. So when the way to help the other, it's help to liberate from the circling existence, or help us to get away from suffering. This the only way to get away from suffering is if we realize the vision of emptiness. So that's why he teaches us that he taught us the emptiness. So for having a realization of emptiness, and the only best way to achieve the realization of emptiness is through the dependent origination, understanding of dependent origination. So that's why he taught us the dependent origination first before taught us. So that's why whoever sees the dependent origination sees the Dharma. Whosoever sees the Dharma sees the Buddha. So it's a dependent origination. So that's why there's a classical logical reasoning. They say sprout, it's not exist truly because it is interdependent. For example, like eggs is not exist. Egg is free of truly exist because egg is a dependent originations. Then the images it's interdependent. The image. So because of being interdependent, because of being dependent, so it's the egg is not exist itself. Egg is not exist truly. It's free of truly exist. So that's why it's those who are not following the the path, the doctrine of the Buddha, they don't understand, because they are so conditioned their mind with the self-exist. So because of their belief, because they believe so, because of the strong belief, they don't they don't understand and they don't follow. So same as if you are you dreamt in you are sleeping and you dream that in dream or say the dream goes chasing you,
and you are trying to, trying to escape and trying to, you are running in the, you are running in dream, and you are so stressed, and you are so exhausted. But in that dream, if your teacher or your friend says, oh, you don't need to run anymore, because that ghost is not a real ghost, it's a dream ghost. The dream ghost is a, it's a, how to say, just a mental reflections. It's not a real. But the person who are dreaming is not going to believe it. It's not going to, he is not going to believe it, because he has a strong belief to this, dream ghost. The only way to, feel relief and feel relaxed and stop running is if he or she wakes up or awake from that state of sleeping, state of foggy mind. So that's why we, something intellectually, we understand. Okay, it's everything happens depend on cause and effect. Everything happens. There's nothing exists itself. You understand? But still, we don't feel that free of self-existence, because we have a strong belief of self-exist. Self-exist. So that's why teaching of emptiness find us little complex teaching. It looks complex. Even in the reality, it's because our mind is always distracted mind, because our mind is our mind has a kind of tendency which is like a exaggerate. Exaggerate. We ate, right. And or we are underestimate.
Yeah.
When we are in love, we exaggerate. Exaggerate, or even the object of our attachment is not carrying any real piece of attractions, but we see, wow, how she looks, her eyes, how etc. And then when we are upset, we underestimate. Oh, she is no more beauty. She is the witch. At the beginning of our love process, we see our loved one, when at the beginning of the dating, we see she or he is like a divine. Wow, right. It's like a. Then after a few, we see as like a human. Oh, it's just a regular human. Then after a few years, we see as like a ghost. We see like a demon. This is because of she or he make my life terrible. Now I can't bear. I need to search the place where I can every time. At the moment of the dating, when we receive the message, all the butterflies fly everywhere, right? Then after a few years, when we receive the message, we feel annoying. This is, I just received a message where I am in 10 minutes, and now another message, we feel annoying. So, because our mind is not well centered, so distracted mind is unhappiness mind. So that's why we exaggerate, right?
Yeah.
Or we underestimate. We don't see how it is the things.
Right.
So that's why the teaching of emptiness or dependent origination find us a little bit complex, because of our strong belief in self-inherent existence. anyhow, even if that kind of teaching find us a little complex, but we need to go beyond that complex. We need to make it simple. This is the only way. This is the only way to liberating our mind. So continuously, it's for you when one sees emptiness in terms of the meaning of dependent origination, then being devoid of intrinsic existence and possessing valid function do not contradict. So because of the things are empty of inherent existence, that's why the it's the things exist conventionally. Things functional, like a diet Coke. Diet Coca-Cola. You see and check all the ingredients. It sees all the zero, zero sugar, zero nothing. You don't see anything, like it's all at zero. But as a zero, but when you drink, it tastes something. There's taste. There's something to taste. It's a taste, the conventional, because. It's calling, but I don't know. Maybe it's urgent or not. It's not okay. Okay. So that's why things are free of inherent existence. So that's why things exist conventionally. So that's why the Buddha is a great teacher, a great speaker. He never, says the things are inexist. Things are exist. Why? How it happened to exist? Because because of things are things are free of inherent existence. So that's why that in order to things are empty of inherent existence, so everything exists functionally. Like zero itself, it's a non-number. It's a zero, right? You are so, but the rest of the number, 1, 2, 3, 4, all those numbers exist because of the zero. If there is no zero, you can't, you can't create the number. So like shunyata, right? Like you are number 1, you are number 2, and you are 0, means you don't have any numbers. But because of the 0, the number, create the number, or number exists. So that's why So, none of phenomena exists inherently, intrinsically, but conventionally the things exist. So that's why the conventionally we can practice, we can, how to say, purify, we can accumulate, etc. These are the very particular teaching of the Buddha. So for us, when there is nothing exists ultimately, there is nothing exists, truly. So that makes us less willing to practice, because we are so, how to say, our mind is so conditioned mind and self-interested mind. So as a conditioned mind, our mind is subjected by the condition and self-interested. If there is a there is ultimately, even there is a Buddha. So if there is ultimately there is no Buddha, it makes us sound like the Buddha is the false. I'm not interested in achieving the false state of the Buddhahood. I want the original. I want the pure one. So if I don't get anything the pure, I'm not interested to follow the practice. This is how our ordinary mind, because our ordinary mind is a very self-interested mind and very, how to say, conscious mind and very conditioned. So that's why we are slave by our own condition, even the things are free. So continuously, verse 12 says, whereas when one sees the opposite, since there can be no function in emptiness, nor emptiness in what has functions, one falls into a dreadful abyss you maintain. It means if you think that the things exist ultimately, things exist itself, things exist, how to say, truly, and things exist, how to say, without dependent on other phenomena, and things exist independently, or the things exist, we exist objectively, then it's hard to establish their own functions. It's not going to function anymore. Then we cannot see the dependent origination, the cause and effect, because things if things exist independently, cannot exist as dependent.
Right.
It's against our reality.
Right.
It's against our reality. So that's why Buddha believed whosoever sees, whosoever think, the phenomena exist itself, their vision is extreme visions. They are, fall in an extreme. They are against the reality. They are, So that's why, the Buddha himself, it's not a self-exist, it's not an ultimate exist. Buddha is not exist ultimately and truly, so that's why we have a chance to achieve the Buddhahood. If the Buddha exists truly, Buddha has a truly existent and inherent existence, then we don't have a chance to, because our own existence are also, self-inherent existent, without any dependent, without depending and it's independent. So we don't have a chance to get Buddhahood, because we are going to always be ordinary.
Right.
We are going to be all ordinary. So that's why self-inherent exists. It's an in-exists. It's not it exists conventionally, neither it exists ultimately. But we think it exists because of our wrong mental wrong perceptions. We create it's just something which is not. So that's why it's a very logical and it's easy to understand. So therefore, in your teaching, seeing dependent origination is held. That too, not as an utter non-existence, nor as an intrinsic existence. So that's why the teaching of the Buddha have us to see the reality of the phenomenon, the reality and the truth, the reality. So that's why this teaching is a very qualified teaching. So in the reality, the things exist free of inherent existence, but conventionally things function. So that's why things function. It's like so the law, of course, in FA, the code, dependent origination. So these are very extraordinary. So that's why whosoever sees the interdependence sees the reality. Who sees the reality, achieve the Buddhahood. So the reality of dependent origination, it's we need to how to say that reality of dependent origination, we need to see through the through the understanding of lack of inherent existence. When we see the lack of inherent existence, then we know the things exist. How it exists interdependently. Interdependently. So that's why if the things exist interdependently, then we understand the things not exist independently. There is nothing could exist independently, right? Because they exist dependent. Everything it depends. It's not cannot be independent. Lama Tsongkhapa, so that's why Lama Tsongkhapa is so wise. First he says you need to understand the dependent originations. Once you understand the dependent originations, then you will understand better the emptiness. And so from the beginning, if we try to search or if we try to understand the emptiness, searching the emptiness is like searching venom snakes. Venom snakes, when you go to hunt the venom snake, you must be very careful and take a lot of precautions. Otherwise, the snake can poison or snake can kill you. But once you know how to catch the snake, you can have a great antidotes that you can make through the, that venom. All those antidotes need to develop through the venom. No? So same as, if you don't know how to meditate well the emptiness, so emptiness make you, it's very seductive. Actually, the emptiness is a very seductive. Seduction is like a
sedation, like sedative.
Like sedative, like to where how to say.
Oh, seductive.
Seductive, right?
Yeah,
Seduction.
Yeah, it's very seductive.
It's
a seduction.
A seduction. When there's someone, if you follow their seduction, you don't get their real intention. So you just because of you are follow the attraction, the force attraction. Same as like how to say. If you go beyond, that seduction, then you see the reality. You see the reality. So that's why so when you chase the emptiness, you need to know how to chase. When you search the emptiness, as a searching. So otherwise, we take a risk to understanding the we take a risk to fall in nihilism. The emptiness means nothingness. So nothingness, it's against the reality, because so that's why first we should understand the interdependent. Once you understand the interdependent, then we see there's a lack of independent. If the things are lack of independent, then things things are empty of self-inherent existent. So continuously, the non-contingent is like a sky flower, hence there is nothing that is not dependent. If things exist through their essence, their dependence on causes and conditions for their existence is a contradiction. So there is none of phenomena, it could exist independent without dependent the other phenomena. That kind of phenomena is like sky flower. It's like the sky flowers. It's an example of inexistent. It's inexistent. So everything exists dependent. They have their origin is a dependent phenomenon as a causal effect, or as a part, as a designation. So for example, like egg, if the egg exists independently, then egg, the producer of the egg, not necessarily to be hands, because we all know that without hand we cannot have the
eggs.
Real egg. Maybe there's some synthetic eggs. It's okay. For example, right, the egg. We all know that eggs without hands we cannot have an egg. So if you want to have an egg, there should be the hands. So that's why. So if the egg exists, it must exist without existence of hands. It exists itself. It's a truly exist. So this kind of it's inexist. So we all know that existence of egg is dependent of the hands. So totally dependent on hands. So that's why it's we all understand that the existence of the egg dependent on hands. Then we cannot see the self-inherent existent. The self-inherent existent it's a product of our own projection mind. It's our mental projections, which is when we see. So that's same as nothing exists independently. Even our own exists. If we see as when we identify ourselves as independent and inherent, actually it's our misconception. So that's why we are free of self-inherent existence, same as the egg. We are dependent originations. So if we are dependent origination, our origination is dependent. So why we think only ourselves? There is no only our own existence depend on other components, other conditions. So we must think the others. The thinking only yourself and searching only your benefit is the incoherent behave. It's misdeeds. So that's why eventually the understanding of dependent origination, understanding of emptiness, make us more compassionate and make us more considerate. Considerate or considerate? Considerate. So that's why we all wish to have a good friends, right? We all wish to be a loved one. We all wish to be, like a respected. A respected one, or
you have to be respected.
To be respected.
Right.
To be respected. If you want to be, if you want to have a good friends, if you want to be a respected or loved, so you should know how to respect the others. You should know how to be kindness, and you should know how to love others. If ourselves, we are longing to have good friends, and ourselves behaving very egoistic, behaving very very sensitive, very negative, and expecting to have a good friend, it's very hard, it's very difficult, it's against the reality. So be very egoistic, be only thinking for only yourself. It's nobody. You're not going to have good friends. So because if you want to have a good friends, the existence of good friend is a dependent origination, dependent on our own behavior. You are generous, you are sincere, you are kind, then you will get a good friend. Whether you wish or not, but you will get it. So because why? Because it's a dependent origination. So the dependent origination is really, how to say, important in our day-to-day life. Understand, dependent originations to make our life more easier and more, how to say, yeah, make our life more easygoing or more comfortable. So it's a 15, right? Number 15?
Yes.
Yeah. Therefore, since no phenomenon exists other than origination through dependence, no phenomenon exists other than being devoid of intrinsic existence, you taught. So that's why everything arises because of being dependent. Also dependent. So that's why Buddha, he said the things are free of inherent existence. Even Nagarjuna also said there is nothing could exist without being dependent. Nothing could exist without being free of inherent existence. So that's why everything exists because of being, free of self-inherent existence and because of dependent phenomena. They are free. So continuously here, because intrinsic nature cannot be negated. If the phenomena possess some intrinsic nature, nirvana would become impossible, and elaborations could not be ceased, you taught. So the things exist inherently or intrinsically. You cannot modify. You cannot change the things.
Right.
The things are, continues how it is. You cannot. Then the things exist inherently. You cannot discern, or you cannot walk properly. Actually, walk. So we cannot change it. Also, we cannot have a we can't expect to achieve the liberations, because our own exists inherently, exists intrinsically. So we cannot change our way of thinking. We cannot purify our mind. We cannot transform our emotions, because our emotion exists intrinsically. So all those our extreme views cannot change us, because exists truly.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
But sorry. So I have a question. So here it says here the intrinsic nature. If the things or ourself exist intrinsically, that means
It always exists like this.
we can't change.
Yeah, we cannot change.
So if we can't change, we can't function.
Yeah.
So there's no function.
Yeah.
There's no function in any kind. And then that means the karma, like the karma that, there's no, I can't say there's no karma. Like the karma would stay
Always. Like
Always
it's a
the
negative.
same.
It's born as a negative, dying, going to die in the negative.
right.
I mean, like it's always going to be like this.
Right. So there's not going to be more negative or
Yeah.
more negative or less negative. But
Yeah.
It's just
staying
negative.
all the time, like permanently.
Right. And then if we're permanent, that means we can't die.
Yeah, we cannot die. It's against all our reality.
Right.
Actually, yes, it's against all our evident things.
Right. So intrinsic existence means that it's like it's not. It means it exists as it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't change. It doesn't disappear.
Yeah.
It doesn't increase.
Yeah.
It doesn't. So everything there's stays the same.
Yeah.
It's not even permanent, right?
The reality, it's
Like
there's nothing phenomenon. There's none of phenomena could exist like this.
Right,
If
right.
like if exists, then we don't have any. So if our economic system, our
Right,
status,
right.
it's
there's
inherent existent. We don't have a chance to be a
no rich
millionaire.
or poor or
Yeah, rich or poor. Yeah, this is you can't expect to have a Lamborghini.
Right. Because it cannot. The
Cannot.
Lamborghini is created. If you
Yeah.
can't create it,
So that's why most of the time we think that being emptiness is something which against our wishes, because we wish to, we are willing to things exist always, our body, our so that's why it's the understanding of impermanence, the teaching and understanding and teaching of emptiness impact us a lot.
right?
Impact. So that's why sometimes we neglect. We don't. We don't bear. We can't bear to see the changes. When the changes comes, it always helps. Disturb us, disturb also, so that's why our current situation is like, things are, we think or we expect and we wishes the things are permanent, and then all the phenomena like sensorial object give us satisfactions.
Right.
Then we see the things are pure, even they are impure. Right? Then the things are not self. The things exist intrinsically or self-exist. So that's why this is what we think, what we thought. I mean,
Right,
what
right.
is. But in reality, no, the things are like are. So that's why when the reality appears, it's we can't face the reality.
Right.
So we're always trying to. So that's why we let our mind under the diluted decisive, decisive mind, and we cheat ourselves. We trying to. So that's why, for ordinary beings, as an ordinary being, as a not a spiritual, having any spiritual supports. So when manifests like the real face, like changes, and insatisfactions, and sensual object are insatiables. So reality of our bodies are impure, and our existence are no self-existent. It makes us so unstable, break all our expectations and break our all our scales. This is but once you understand it's empty, it's insatiable, it's impure, it's free of self, existent, then you don't care. The changes doesn't matter, but the things changes, but your peace of mind still,
you get to
keeps, you develop even more peace, and you overcome all the disturbance mind.
So Rinpoche, now the opposite of the the samsara would be like, or in the state of liberation, or in Pure Land, or when the in the land of when Arhat get rid of this body and they go to Pure Land, right? So in that world, it is also follows dependent origination, right?
Yeah.
So that world changes. Those worlds, like our world changed, all the time.
Yeah.
Eventually, this, because it's material, it's a mundane world.
Yeah.
This earth eventually will destroy, and but in Pure Land, it's also follows the rule of dependent origination.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So it changes.
Yeah. It changes. It changes constantly. Changes doesn't mean going to disappear one day. But changes is a momentary. It's a momentarily changes, but not as such a gross like us, like the world, the moment of creation, moment of presence, and moment of destroy. It's not. It's a subtle changes. Subtle changes are momentary, but it's continuously. Being continuously is a part of the changes. Otherwise, cannot continues. So the Pure Land. The existence of Pure Land is changes. Changes is a continuous, the continuity. So now the next, it says which number we are?
16.
16 we did, right?
Yeah.
Now the 17. Therefore, who could challenge you? You who proclaim with the lion's roar in the assembly of learned ones repeatedly that everything is utterly free of intrinsic nature. So that's why Buddha, he say without any fear, because he knows. He understands and he realizes that things not exist intrinsically. So that's why he is the free of fear. So he he becomes like a lion. When the lions roar, it's don't feel any fear of the other animals. it's because of their own dignity. So whatever Buddha says, he says all this, you know, how to say, direct. He says everything through his own direct perceptions. So no one can, you know, refuse him. He is, you know, whatever, it doesn't matter whatever he says, everything is coherent. There is nothing incoherent. It's you cannot approve him as a wrong, because it's all it's whatever he says honestly, because he sees, he shows everything. So continues that there is no intrinsic existence at all, and that all function as this arising. Independence on that, what need is there to say that these two coverage without conflict? It is through the reason of dependent origination that one does not lean toward an extreme. That you have declared this excellently is the reason. So he says the things are free of intrinsic existence. Things exist because of the dependent being dependent. So the concept, idea of the interdependent and idea of the non-self inherent existent are ideas which they complement each other. So so that's why Buddha, he said, and the form is empty, emptiness is a form, right? There is no different what.
Form is emptiness, emptiness form. Form does not differ from emptiness, emptiness does not differ from form.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Emptiness does not differ from form, and form does not differ from emptiness. Likewise, feelings, recognitions, volitions, and consciousness are empty. So that's why if form is empty, it means like if the form exists intrinsically, form must exist independently. Right? Form must. So if the form exists independently, then if we search the form, we must find the form. Like this beads exist intrinsically, it must exist, how to say, independent. If it exists independent, if it's
independent.
If it exists independent, so it exists always. We need to see it beats. It doesn't matter whatever situations we are facing. We should because it exists inherently, right? So if we take this, as much as we analyze the beats, as less as we are going to find the beats. So because if you take these beats to the laboratory and we watch through the microscope, we are not going to see anymore the beats. We're just going to see changing the aspect of the beats. So that's why the beats it's free of inherent existence. The form is empty, empty of inherent existence. Then here said the form is empty. Emptiness is a form, right? The beads is empty. The emptiness is a beads or the form. So the form it's free of inherent existence. Your own nature is a fear or free of inherent existence. So that's why it's the form is only dependent on the designation. Only the dependent designation. As a dependent, you know how to say, it's a dependent only on the how to say, designation, this name, mainly name. So that's why it's become functional and conventionally it's become a functional. So that's why form function as a form, the bead function as a beads. So we can count it, we can touch it, we can feel it. The beads. This bead is like sandalwood. That bead is the stone, etc. So they have their own functions. So does not differ from form, right? Form is emptiness. The emptiness is a form. The form does not differ from form. Emptiness does not differ from form. It means so when we analyze the form, it's a form exists inherent or not exists inherent through our cognition. When we analyze, then we know that form is a free of inherent existence. You understand? So then we see the emptiness is the ultimate reality of the form. We see the ultimate reality of the form is emptiness because the form is free of inherent existence. We don't find any other phenomena which can be the ultimate nature of the form. That's why the form does not differ from form. Emptiness does not differ from the form. So then the opposite, and form does not differ from emptiness. It means when we analyze, when we search, we don't see other ultimate nature of the form except the emptiness, right? Except the emptiness. So we don't see inherent existence of form because of free of inherent existence of form. Then we can definite the form conventionally as a form. So likewise, the rest of the phenomena are also so this is the 4 types of emptiness. It's likewise, the rest of the phenomena are also same. So you need to search I'm empty. Emptiness is I am. Emptiness does not differ from me, and the I am does not. I do not differ from emptiness. Right? That's so that I which we see actually such a solid and independent. Actually, it's the ultimate nature of that I is emptiness, empty of inherent existence. Being being as empty of inherent existence. So that's why I exist conventionally. I exist independently. You know, I exist interdependently. So that's why so whosoever understand our existence is dependent. So then everything exists dependently, and then it is empty. Once understand emptiness and dependent originations are like two faces of one coin, then this person entered in middle path, Madhyamika. So that's why nothing exists itself, nothing exists from others, nothing exists ambos, both, and nothing exists without cause and conditions. So so whenever we recite like a Heart Sutra, so it's we should understand that our existence is a subjective. It's not an objective. If the thing exists objective, it must exist itself. It must exist intrinsically. Right? So nothing exists intrinsically. Everything exists dependent on how we project the projections, the project. So through this understand, we need to we need to free from all those pressure caused by, or pressure and tension caused by anger, hatred, and ignorance. We need to free. We need to keep resting in our nature of our ultimate nature of mind. Keep resting in our ultimate nature of mind. Instead of craving and grabbing. Right? Imagine like when you when you are next to the when you are having nice cup of coffee next to the side cafe, right? Side cafe, sidewalk, and in middle of the street they are running a lot of cars. They are going, coming, going, coming. So same as our thoughts are arising and disappearing. So meanwhile you're just watching and you're just taking rest the nature of the mind. You are not craving and you are not grabbing any car and you are not stopping. It's okay, you can enjoy the coffee. You can enjoy the, But the problem is if you focusing and taking rest in the, having a nice coffee, you go and you stopping all the car and trying to get into the car. Then it make the problems. Same as all our thoughts randomly, perception, it comes, you just watch and let them go instead of, trying to conjunction them or blocking them. same as why? Because there's no reason to, how is it? As long as you are trying to, grab it, you cannot grab because there are lack of inherent existence. The seeing the lack of inherent existence is misperceptions. Okay, so now it's 4:30.
Yeah, Rinpoche.
It's time to break, and then 7:30 we will back, right? Okay, then we stop. We take a rest here. We'll stop here, and I offer mandala same as usual. This ground anointed with a perfume and what? Stephen with the flowers, Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine as a Buddha land and offer to you. May all beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Rana Mandala Niyataya. So dedication. May the precious mind of enlightenment not yet born arise and grow. May that born will not decline but increase forever. In order to follow the excellent examples set by the wisdom of the Bodhisattva Manjushri and the always sublime Samadhabhadra, I dedicate all virtue to their peerless ideals. All conquerors pass into the 3 times have praise as supreme, the peerless dedication. Therefore, I also surrender all roots of my activities to the sublime goals of Bodhisattva. May all sentient beings, our fathers and mothers, have stable happiness. May all the ever-gone realms become empty forever. And may all the prayers of all the Bodhisattvas, wherever they reside, be fulfilled. Daso Chinye Sawe Yawadi Danan Roa Kona Kambe, the Chebarjisum was on top of them, being important to say Jeshu, Damaranchi Choki Machella Chachana, you choking injection for your children, Pendet, the Sewa Chever show. Okay, thank you so much. So have a good rest and see you all at 7:30.
7:30.
7:30, yeah. Thank you.